Hey Homeworthy, I'm Aarica and welcome to my home in DFW. Come on in, I'd love to show you around.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
My name is Aarica Jefferson, but online I go by Aarica Nichole, and my passion is creating home decor content. I love DIYs. I mainly focus on thrifting, vintage, estate sales, like all secondhand is my favorite thing to find, and I create content full-time. So right now we're in DFW. I live in the suburbs right outside of Dallas, Texas. And I would say that my style is kind of eclectic. I never can stick to one style. That's kind of my personality though. Like, I don't really have a favorite anything. I just like to mix things that I like and kind of create my own personal style. But I would say a lot of my inspiration comes from like Scandi design. I love color, but I also love simplicity and I love maximalism. So I try to blend all of those things into one and also throw in like vintage and modern. So just a mix of everything that I feel like creates me and my personality. So welcome to my entryway. This is the first room that you see when you walk into my home. And also it's my favorite area of my home because I love vinyls and I love collecting them. I love going to record shops. So I actually found this old newspaper magazine rack, and I found it at Round Top, which is this huge flea market that happens a couple times a year in Round Top, and it's right outside of Austin, and it's really well known. A lot of people know about it, so if you haven't heard about it, you should definitely check it out. It's amazing, and a lot of collectors and designers go there to source pieces, so it's really amazing even just to look. So I got this newsstand for $15, and I decided to use it to store my records, and I really love how it's kind of unexpected and a different use for something that was used in the past for newspapers. And I also have this waterfall table that I use to store my stereo and my speaker. And this is also from a vintage store in Dallas called Lullabies. And it's metal and it's a waterfall style, so I love that it doesn't have sharp edges. And then I also have this beautiful, interesting lamp that I thrifted for $15. I originally thought it was a vase when I walked into the store, and then I saw it had a plug. I was like, no way, I thought that was just like a giant vase. So I really love it, and it creates this really warm, beautiful glow whenever it's turned on. And then I also have my miniature bar cart. It's kind of a space age, which is actually my favorite genre of vintage. I love 70s, 60s, that kind of thing. I love vintage plastic, so I felt like this was totally me. I also found that at Round Top for $10. It was stored all the way in the back of a trailer, and I was like, what is that? Because I love plastic, and I was like, that's something plastic. I already know I'm gonna like it. So I'm super glad that I found that. And I just have some of my thrifted pieces. Like for my bar cart, I have a billiard ball tray that has matching glasses on it. And yeah, it's just some of my favorite things. I love to hang out in this chair that I got from IKEA. And I also have this silica packet pillow that I added just for a little extra comfort. And I love things that are kind of camp and different and oversized when they're not supposed to be. So this olive rug is a newer addition to this area. I went to Minnesota for my birthday, and I went to a vintage store, and the woman was so nice, and she had a butter and she had an olive rug, and I was like, I have to have the olive rug because on my bar cart I have an olive toothpick holder, so I felt like it was just gonna tie in the area, and it's just amazing. I love food decor. You'll kind of see that's like a common theme that I kind of like Easter egg throughout my house. It's just random food decor items, so that's definitely something that kind of coexists throughout the whole space. So the prints, whenever you coexist with someone else, you kind of have to have a push and pull when it comes to decorating. So I let go of some of the control in that area. So my fiance actually picked both of these. The Ferrari is actually from an estate sale that we went to together, and I was like, you know what, I like the chrome frame, so I was definitely game for that. And hopefully in the future we'll buy a vintage car, so that's kind of like manifesting a vintage car for us. And then Halloween, that's his favorite season. So, and I love old Halloween movies too. When I was growing up, it was my mom's favorite thing to just turn on old horror movies. So I really love the Halloween one because I feel like that's such a classic. So some of my favorite records would be, first off, Clairo. She is my favorite at the moment. So I have 2 of her albums, and since it's fall, I feel like Clairo's just my go-to right now. Like, especially at home, it feels so cozy, and I don't know, it's just the mood right now for me is Clairo. So this one's one of my favorites. Also, this one I recently had on, this is Jamie XX, which we saw them at Governor's Ball a few years ago, a long time ago. And yeah, so we recently got this one. So that one's been on repeat a lot too. Another favorite that I've been listening to is Sade because she's just my queen and I love her. So whenever I first started decorating my entryway, the first thing that I changed was our front door, because when you move into a new build, everything is just so white and it's not inviting. So I felt like instead of painting the whole room, because I do love color, but I also like to have a balance. So I feel like mixing neutrals and color is a good way to not overstimulate yourself. So I felt like if I just added a nice pop to our front door, that it would make such the difference, and it really has. And I love the yellow. I was gonna do blue, but I'm so happy I went with yellow, and I kind of ran with it. So that's why I added the yellow chair to kind of tie in with the door. And I think the fun thing too is that I can always just change the color whenever I want to, because you can always just paint over it. But I really love this yellow. It's like the warm, like sunshine yellow. So when the light comes in, it's everything. And so when you move from the entryway, this is the next area that you run into. And this is where I keep a lot of my plants. I feel like in 2020, I kind of developed, I needed a newer hobby. So I decided to start caring for plants. My friend was into it, so I was like, you know what, like that would be so cute to have something to bond over. So I started buying plants and I went completely overboard. So this is kind of my reduced version because they become a lot to take care of. So these are kind of just like the ones that I felt more connected to that I decided to keep. And I got this storage unit from IKEA, and they're 2 separate ones, but I combined them to kind of make it more of a statement. And so I just keep some of my plants on it. We have a little storage bin to hide like our Wi-Fi and all of that. And then at the bottom, I added our blankets because I love to have a blanket when I'm just watching movies. And then I love having lights on a shelf. I feel like it adds a little something unexpected. So I love having a little addition of a light. And I've had this IKEA bulb light for years, and for some reason I can just never get rid of it, and I always find a new way to use it. So I'm glad that to this day I can still find new ways to add it into my home. And now we've entered our dining area. I felt like it was really important to create little moments in an open space. So I feel like whenever you kind of section off an area, it becomes its own. So I have this checkered rug to kind of make it feel more like it's its own moment. And then I love this circular table. I had a rectangle table, but I kind of grew out of love with that one, and I really love this round one because it doesn't take up as much space, and I feel like you can kind of sit anywhere on the table and kind of still have a view and feel a part of the room. And I actually painted the top of this green because when I was traveling in Europe, I saw so many cafes that had like a colorful top to their table and mismatched chairs. So I was like, as soon as I get home, I'm doing that. So I found this table, painted it green, and I really love it. And then I found these bar stools recently that are chrome, and they're a replica of the Knoll bar stools, but I really love how it looks with the wood. It's a nice contrast, and I think it just fits in really well and adds that like mismatch but intentional to the look of the space. And of course, another plant because I just love them. And then so right next to our dining table, This is actually a bench that went with the rectangle dining table I had. And I really like the bench, so I decided to keep it here. And sometimes I'll let my plants sunbathe here. And then I also have these pug figurines that I thrifted. I guess someone donated a collection of them, and they each have their own outfits for different occasions. So I think it's the cutest thing. And our pug recently passed away, so I feel like this is a cute little reminder to always keep his energy and his spirit around. So the type of home that I'm currently living in, it's a townhouse, so it's 2 stories. And we also have a balcony and a garage and a front yard, so that's really nice. So the process of finding our home took quite some time because we definitely were looking to move into a bigger space because at the time I was running a vintage store and we were running out of room. So we're like, okay, we need to find somewhere bigger. And we're living in the city in Dallas. So we're looking around that area, and luckily we had a friend that was a realtor, so he was really patient with us. So we started looking at homes in Dallas. We looked at a few of them, but we didn't really see anything we liked. And so we're like, okay, we need to venture out and kind of go a little further. And for me, I feel like thrift stores and estate sales and all of that was very important to me at the time and still is. So we're like, okay, so the suburbs have a lot of really good thrift stores and estate sales because we would always drive to this area to go thrift shopping and go to estate sales. So we're like, okay, maybe we should look in the area where we're always kind of working. So we came out to the suburbs and we saw this new development. We're like, oh, let's check this out, even though it wasn't like a single family home that we were looking for, but we're like, might as well just check because we haven't found anything that we like so far. So we toured this one. Our whole row was actually up on the market, so we went into each unit to see which one we felt fit our needs best. And so we really fell in love with this one. I felt like the layout was perfect for what we're looking for. So as soon as we looked at it the first time, we're like, yes, this is definitely the one for us. So it worked out perfectly, and we've been here for about, I would say, 5 years now, and it's really become like our safe space, our comfort space. So I just love that we found this home. And now we're moving into the living room area right off of the dining room area. And I feel like the thing that you would probably notice first whenever you're moving over to this area is our gallery wall. It's definitely full from the top to the bottom, and this is a collection of all of our like prints that we've collected over the years. They're all from different places. Some of them, a lot of the movie themed ones are from a brand called Mondo, and they kind of specialize in movie art. And then some of them, like this checkered one, is from an Instagram creator. Her shop is KJ Shop, and I think she's based out of the UK. She does screen printing, so I really like that one. And then this Miffy one is from when we went to Amsterdam over the summer, and I'm a huge Miffy enthusiast, and it was a store full of just all Miffy items, so I definitely went a little overboard with that. And then this one, it's a fabric embroidery piece of art, and I found that one at an estate sale for $20. And the thing that caught my eye about that one was the yellow frame. I was like, perfect, my house is gonna really coexist with that one really nicely. I love colorful frames, if you can tell. So a lot of the ones that do have colored frames are from thrift stores or estate sales. But then, like I said, I love neutral, so I'll add in like a brass or a black or a white or like a wood, just because I didn't want it to look too put together. I kind of like how it looks like you've kind of collected over time, or that you kind of just randomly one day decide to throw some up, which is what I do sometimes. I'm always adding to this wall, so I kind of like how it looks chaotic, but it makes sense, at least to me. So I really love that. And then I also decided to add some like invisible bookshelves, just because I thought maybe if I only had prints that it would be a little overwhelming. So I thought it'd be nice to kind of break it up by adding some different elements to it. And I also like how I kind of, this invitation print, I like how it's just sitting on the table because, again, it kind of adds to that not put together, but put together, because it's like, oh, why is one just sitting there? It's like, it makes sense, at least to me. And The Shining one, I think that one might be my favorite because I love that movie. It's a classic in my household, so I think that one's really fun. I love vintage plastic items, and this is a Joe Colombo trolley. If you like plastics and space age, this is kind of like a collector's item. And I stood in line at 7 a.m. for an estate sale to get this piece, and somehow it was still there when I got into the house, and it's probably top 3 favorite finds that I've ever found. It has all the pieces, and I use it to store a lot of my crafts and my DIY. So I really love this, and when I found it, I didn't know if I liked the red, but because I love the style and I've been wanting this piece for so long, I decided to just start incorporating red into my house. So you can see like I have the red frame and like red in the artwork. I have red in our rug as well, and just little pops throughout our house, which all stem from this piece right here. And then another find is this cartel chair. We actually have an ongoing estate sale. It's like a bunch of warehouses that are like 2 minutes from our house. And so I saw this in there one day and I was just like, I have to have this. So I thought it would go nicely with our rug because it's blue. So it's a really cool, interesting piece to have. And I love the shape of it too. Oh, and then my number 1 favorite find I've ever found is our coffee table. I'm not sure of the technical name, but from what I've researched, it's an 80s scroll table. And it's really crazy because I found a picture like this on Pinterest years ago, and I was like, that is my dream coffee table. And then we went to Benbrook in Fort Worth. They have an amazing antique store there. And I walked past a booth that had nothing in it. It was just empty. And then all that was in there was this table. And I was like, no way. Like, I was out of body. I was like, there's no way this is just right here. So I posted it on my stories and I was like, should I get this? Because it was kind of pricey. And so I left, and then everyone's like, are you dumb? Go get it. So then I called them and I was like, there was some damage. Do you think you could come down on the price? And they said they would. So I drove back up there and grabbed it, and I was so happy it was still there. So it's definitely a conversation piece, is our coffee table. And I don't think I could ever get rid of it. It's my favorite thing. And then my couch is also another favorite of mine. I've gone through my fair share of couches. I'm very picky because if I'm going to be watching TV or working or watching a movie, I want to be comfortable and I want to be able to lay on it and not just sit there, because I would always gravitate towards decor type couches and they're never comfortable. So I went to Design Within Reach and tested out some couches because I was like, I want to invest in a nice couch. So we saw this one and it was very comfortable, and it's kind of one of those couches where you can like slump back in it and like really get comfortable. And they had a whole book of just so many swatches and patterns that it came in. And so I kind of sat there for like an hour just going through all of them and like kind of contemplating what would go with our house. But this color, it's called Bitterroot. I was like, you know what? It's so different and unexpected. And I wasn't sure about it, but something in my gut was like, just go for it. So I'm so glad I did. We had to wait forever for it to come because it was like a custom color. But I love it. It's amazing. And I feel like it's the most asked thing I get questions about is where my couch is from. So the brand is called Hay, and it's called the Hackney sofa. And it's amazing. But sadly, they don't sell the Bitterroot color anymore for some reason. But there are still a lot of interesting colors that you can get the couch in. So our rug is from Etsy. It's a very cobalt bright blue. And the thing that really made me fall in love with this rug was the red line that goes around at the border. I feel like it adds a nice contrast. And it also ties in some of the red pops that kind of exist in this space. And it's extremely comfortable too. It's I think it's called a Berber rug. So it's very plush, it's very soft, and it's probably one of the most comfortable rugs that I've ever had. So I love this rug, and I love how it's solid because I feel like there's a lot that goes on as far as like patterns and colors. So I felt like having something solid as a rug would be a nice little change in here. So I'm really happy with how it kind of ties everything together. And then this couch, Actually, when I first started getting into making home decor content, the brand Herman Miller sent me this couch, which I think is so crazy because I'm like, I actually really love that brand now that I've gotten more into home decor. And they were doing a relaunch of their 70s style couch called the Chicklet. And so I kind of like how it's not vintage, but it's in a vintage style. So this one would kind of be more of a decor couch for me. I don't sit on it as much, mainly because I don't want it to get dirty, but it's definitely more of a like sit upright kind of chair. So whenever I'm working, sometimes I'll sit there, but definitely when I'm lounging, it's always the purple bitterroot couch for me. And then I also found this tomato pillow from World Market. And I love it because it also ties in my love for food decor. And it's just a nice little addition and a nice little pop. So I didn't want to do matching side tables next to our couch because I like things that don't go together. And I had the trolley on that side. So I'm like, I have to do something fun on this side too. So I found this corn, which I love. And I love the details, how it has like a little bite mark on both sides. It makes it look hyper realistic. And I just love that it's not even the size of a corn, it's just oversized. And then I thrifted this little decorative plate, and it has egg candles on top of it, because why not? And I also have a butter candle, so sometimes I'll put the butter on the dish, and then sometimes I'll have my egg candles on the dish. So it just depends on the day. And then right behind the couch and the side table, I have this stone floor lamp. This was a find that I found in 2021, I think, from an Instagram seller that lives in Austin. So I actually drove to Austin to pick it up. And it doesn't kind of go with everything in here, but I like how different it is. And I feel like the fact that it's white makes it more neutral. So it doesn't really matter like, oh, is it Scandi? Is it 70s? It doesn't really matter. It's neutral. Sometimes you notice it, sometimes you don't. But I think the thing that makes it stand out is the lampshade. So while I was in Austin, I was like, I want to make sure that the lamp and all the wiring is good. Since it's an older lamp, it's like a postmodern lamp. And at the lamp shop, when they were fixing it up, they also had lampshades, and I didn't have one. So I was looking around the store, and I was just like, oh, that's so cool. It kind of looks like tie-dye. So I kind of like the juxtaposition, because if the tie-dye, where it breaks up, it kind of matches the rock texture. So I felt like it went together in like the tiny details, which is my absolute favorite. I'm such a details person, so I love the way that it came together. And then my disco ball was actually a DIY that I did because I wanted it to hang, but I didn't know exactly how I was gonna get it to hang. So I found this yellow chain at the hardware store in what is it called? A carabiner, yeah. And then I found this fun carabiner. So I was like, okay, so, and it had like a little keychain loop. So I just kind of pieced together like a puzzle, each of the pieces. And I used a nail with a hook and just hung it on there. And I think it looks nice, especially at night, the way the lamp shines on it, it kind of cascades the disco lights. So I really like it, and it's like a fun little moment. And so this is our like entertainment center area. And so we have our TV mounted, and I've been looking forever, and I mean ever, for a way to kind of create a TV stand because the TV is so big. So I decided to give up, and I went to IKEA and I found these, I guess they're side tables. And I was like, you don't have to use a TV stand, because you kind of have to break your mind to not think so linear. And I feel like it's your home, you can do what you want. So I just bought 2 of these side tables, and they actually have wheels, so they roll. So like if you have guests over, you can always just move them closer in or move them around. But I kind of just use them for storage. So some of my decor items that I wanted out that I didn't know where to put, I kind of just stack them on top. And then I have my little storage bins that hold like my journals and like some computer equipment that I use. So I think it turned out really cute, and I love the red. I didn't even have to paint them. They just came red, which is amazing. So it kind of ties in that red theme that I like to have pop throughout the house. So then when you're heading out from the living room, you enter another fun space that I created, and I call this my things wall. This is kind of a newer addition because whenever I thrift, sometimes I'll just buy things and not exactly know what I want to do with them. But I kind of knew, I was like, I have a lot of artwork hanging on the other wall. So I was like, I kind of want to have a wall to where I can have just wall decor, like no photos, no anything, just random things that I love. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna make a things wall so I can just hang all my things that I love. So a lot of it is just pieces that I've collected over the years. So I thrifted this old IKEA clock. And the thing that I love about it the most is that it's actually a book holder. I just have a magazine in it right now, but you can really put anything you want in it. And I've never seen a clock like that before. I think it's really unique how, you know, it serves multiple purposes. I also have this magazine holder. I thrifted this as well. I think it was maybe like $4. And I realized that it was metal. So I was like, I'm just gonna add a magnet and some photos to it just to give it a little extra touch of personality. And then I also have this no food or drinks allowed sign. It's vintage that I got from an antique mall in Kansas. And I was like, oh, that's kind of funny because it's just like your house. Like, obviously, you're gonna have food and drinks. And I put it next to the Burger King because drinks and food, love Burger King. And I actually went to an estate sale, and I think the guy who lived there was like an executive for Burger King. So there was so much Burger King merch there, and it was so cool to see. So I also got this burger from there too, and it's actually a music box. So it has a little twist on the back, and it like plays the song, which is interesting. And then I also have this paper clip. It's just a wall decor piece, and I thrifted that as well for like $3. And I love how it's just oversized because I just love things that are small but oversized. And I also have this like horse ribbon. I just love the colors because I have yellow, red, and blue. I love primary colors, and I have a lot of those in my house. So I was like, oh, that's so perfect and random and unexpected. And then I have this donut light that's from IKEA. I love this too. It adds nice texture to the home. And then I also have a gummy bear lamp that lights up too. So I have a lot of random knickknacks, but they're all special to me and I love all of them. So another food stool that I have in my house is a bagel, and I kind of change around what's on it. I usually have a plant on it, but I wanted to have my butter on it recently, so I kind of just left it how it is, but you can do pretty much anything with these. I was even playing around with the idea of adding a glass topper to this, so maybe I'll do that one day, but I think it's once again just like a really cool conversation piece to have. And when you have just a space that you're like, I feel like something should go there, I think you should kind of, if you see something you like, just throw it there and leave it there for a while and see how you feel about it. So that's what I did with my bagel. I would say that my decor style kind of originated from when I was working corporate. There is a very large department retailer that's based here in Dallas, and I was hired on to work on their online e-commerce site in their home department. And that was like so new for me because I didn't really have much of an interest for home, but I was like, oh, this will be so exciting and something new. So after working there for a couple years, I really started to grow and love the home aspect because we would get to go to shoots and like see how everything was styled and curating different styles online. So I felt like I really got in tune with like an appreciation for different styles that weren't my own. And I feel like I started to take some of those things and implement them into my own home. And I feel like that's when I really started to be like, I like fashion, but I feel like your home can also translate what you wear and your personality besides just what you have on. So when you have people come over or you're like posting photos of your home, it's like people are like, oh, that looks just like you. And I kind of love that about homes because you can really get an idea for who the owner is. And I just think that's the most fun part. And I feel like the simplicity that a lot of Scandinavians have is very personal and minimal at the same time. It's just really hard to describe. It's very like authentic and raw, and they use a lot of different unique textures, which I really enjoy. So something about it I feel like just resonates with me, and it's hard to explain. And I went on a trip to Copenhagen this summer and I was like, this is me. Like, this makes so much sense why this is what I'm into. So now let's head to the kitchen. So now we're in the kitchen, And I think the thing that I love most about our kitchen are our green countertops. This was kind of a DIY because we didn't want to change completely our countertops. We were kind of just looking for something temporary to see what we might want to do eventually. So I wanted to do something fun. So these are actually furniture, like vinyl countertop covers. So you can use them on like any type of furniture, but we decided to use them on our countertop, and you can remove them easily. They're kind of just like a very strong sticker. And it definitely takes a while to get on and a little frustrating, but I think it turned out really nice. And I feel like it breaks up like the traditional like kind of new build and gives it some character. So before, the countertops were just like the classic like gray granite that matched the gray backsplash. So I feel like it's nice to have a little bit of color in here, so it's a little more fun, because I wasn't ready to commit to painting our cabinet. So I feel like doing like a temporary, like renter friendly kind of update was definitely up our alley, and I really like how it turned out. So I think some of my favorite things in our kitchen that I've thrifted would be our spice rack. It's actually a plastic, like space age kind of spice rack, and it spins, and I added labels so you can see like what spices we have in here. But I think it's so different and unexpected, and it kind of looks like a toy. When I saw it in the thrift store, I thought it was like a toy truck or something, but I was like, wait, that's a spice rack. That's so cool. So I'm so glad that I found that. And then I also found this teapot, which I would consider this to be a collector's item. It's a tulip teapot, and I think it's from the 90s or maybe the 80s. And I found it for $15 at an estate sale. But when you look these up online, they go from like $150 to $300. So I feel like I got a really amazing deal on this. And it comes in a few different colorways, but I really love the pink. But one day, maybe I would like to find the one that has red tulips, but I just love this one so much. And then I have this spoon rest that is an egg yolk. This is from an Etsy shop, and she makes ceramics. And you can actually choose what color you want your yolk and if you want it to have pepper on it. So I chose the organic cage-free orange with the pepper flakes. And I think it's a cute little addition to have while you're cooking. And then I also have this little tray that I use to hold our salt, which I also got this off eBay, and I have a matching butter dish. I think there's a whole collection where it has like a teapot and everything, so I'm working my way into collecting everything from the collection. But I also have some olive oils, but the fun thing is that it's actually a billiard ball rack where you like line up the balls. So I think it's really fun, and like I have an ongoing theme of pool table stuff as well. When I was growing up, my parents had a pool table right in our living room, like in the center of everything. So I thought that was interesting. Now that I'm older, I'm like, that was kind of interesting, but it just has so many core memories for me when I was growing up. So I feel like whenever I see something that's related to a pool table, I'm like, I have to have that. And yeah, those are some of my favorite things in our kitchen. And I love this lamp that I also got at a West Elm outlet. I love how it kind of looks like a mushroom, and then I kind of store some of my cookbooks and just decorative books there. And I feel like it's a nice little solace moment to have in the kitchen. And so whenever you come in from the back of our house, where our garage is, you kind of want to take your things off your coat, put your keys down. So I found this coat rack at IKEA. And I love this purple color because it ties into our locker that we have by our things wall. And this is where we store our hats, jackets, purses. And then I have this artwork above it that's from a brand called Portray Me. And basically you pick like 10 to 15 items that you want drawn, and then you send them the photos, and then they hand draw each of the items that you requested and kind of make like a little collage. So I did some of my favorite like home decor items, our dog. So I think it's really cool, and it's a creative idea. So I felt like our countertops needed kind of like a centerpiece, and I wasn't sure if I just wanted to do a fruit bowl. So I have this tray that I got at Anthropology, and then I wanted something to display my favorite candle holders on. They're vintage chrome candle holders. And the fun thing about these is that they stack. So you can like take them apart and kind of build them however you want, which I think is super fun and creative. And you can kind of create a new piece every time that you're feeling like you want to switch things up. And I found it at a flea market in Berlin this summer, and it had been on my list for so long. So when I saw it, I was super excited because they go for quite a bit online. So I was just like, I don't care how much, I have to have it. Like, I've never seen one in person, so I'm super happy. And it's also cool too because you can keep adding to it. So the person who was selling them, he had a ton of them. So I'm like, okay, I think I'm just gonna start with 3 so then I can keep building from there, because you can stack them like as high as you want. So maybe next time I'll have one that goes all the way to my ceiling, hopefully. It's hard to pick a favorite because I feel like I pour so much of my energy and passion into like everything that I put into my home, because it's taken me a long time to decorate this place. It's like hasn't ever been like fully decorated, because with vintage, it takes a while to just find exactly what you're looking for. So it's kind of like this push and pull to where you know exactly what you want, you just want it because you can see the vision. But then when you're out and you're looking and trying to source things, it's like you're not always finding exactly what you're looking for. But I would say the first thing that really came together was this area, the living room, the main section where we're sitting. And I feel like it kind of just ties everything together, and then everything that splinters off of it kind of reflects the main hub of our living room. But I would definitely say that the living space, and also we have this music area that's right when you walk in the entryway. And I feel like that's a little spot to where you can kind of read your book, listen to a new record. I love collecting vinyls. So I think it's just a cool little space to where it kind of feels a little separate from the rest of the downstairs because it's an open space. So I try to create these little moments in each little pocket that we have down here, so it kind of feels like it has its own aura. And then so whenever you're leaving the kitchen and you walk this way, you'll run right into our coffee nook area. So one of the standout pieces that we have in our coffee nook area is this table. It's actually an old library card holder, which I think is super special, and I love the story behind it. So it came from like a local public library. And I think my favorite thing about it is that you can actually pull both of these out. And so like when you're making a coffee, you can just set your like milk or your frothed items or your toppings on here while you're just making your coffee, which I think is really unique. And it's definitely one of my favorite pieces over here. And then where I store some of my mugs and things that I use to make teas and things like that, I found this at a garage sale for $5. And I feel like it's perfect for this area because it fits my mugs perfectly, and I like that it's kind of acting as like an open shelf. And I think it's really neat how it ended up kind of matching the same wood as this table, because I didn't buy them together, but I like how they kind of marry each other and they make sense together. So I love when I get things from all these different places and somehow they kind of just end up living beautifully together. I think it really creates a nice story to where you're not buying all of your pieces from the same stores and things like that, and you're kind of just finding things here and there and finding ways to make them go together. So that's kind of what I like to do whenever I'm brainstorming on how to create a nice spot in my house. And then actually, I go very deep into my secondhand finds. I actually got this tree from an estate sale, and I actually had seen a bunch of trees like this on Pinterest, and I was like, I don't know like where I could ever find a tree like that. And then I went to an estate sale and found one. And the thing I like most about it is that you have these like sharp, kind of harsh leaves that come off of it, but then the stem is this really fun swirl, which I like to incorporate in my house. I like kind of softer edges, so I was so excited when I found it, and I think it's so special. And then my light is also from Round Top. I found this in one of the tents outside in the fields there, and I just fell in love with the shape, and I also love the color. I've never seen a lamp like that before, so I definitely wanted to find somewhere to put it in my house, and I felt like this space made a lot of sense for that. And then I have my first ever piece of like a painting that I bought. Her name is Emma Ortiz. She makes these really beautiful paintings out of Miami. And I kind of just told her a few colors that I wanted in it, but I just really love her work, so I didn't want to like be too specific because I trusted her vision. So I'm really excited with how it turned out. It's amazing, and I feel like it's definitely my style. And then I went to a custom framer, and I was going back and forth on colors, but I really like the yellow with it, which then somehow tied into this light as well. So I feel like when you know what colors you like, you don't really have to be so specific and detailed when you're looking around, because I feel like your mind just somehow kind of knows, like, you have these colors, this is gonna go. So I feel like I've gotten really lucky in terms of like what colors go together in my home. My home design tip is to don't listen to anyone else. Like, if you have an idea and you like something, you definitely should go for it. I feel like everyone has opinions, everyone's taste is different. So I don't think you should be very consumed with what would someone think? Does this go together? I feel like it doesn't really matter. I feel like if it's something that you like and you feel really passionate about, that's something that you should just run with, because even if it's not going to be everyone's cup of tea, I feel like if you have that passion and you have that vision for it, it's going to turn out amazing. And I feel like decorating your home is a lot of knowing who you are and having strong opinions on what you like and don't like. And when you're that specific about what you're into, I feel like it translates really beautifully. And most importantly though, don't be afraid of color. I love when people have color in their home. Even if it's not my style personally, I can always appreciate anyone who incorporates color into their home, even if it's just too much. Color everywhere, love it. I also love whenever someone does have a more neutral style, but then they want to incorporate like decorative pillows or colorful curtains. I just have an appreciation for anyone who's not afraid to add color into their home, because I really feel like it adds dimension and it shows your personality, which I think is really important in your home. So home for me is whenever I can come home when I'm feeling anxious, stressed, having a bad day, and I feel like all those nerves just melt off of me. That really makes me feel like I've created the perfect space for myself. I think it's so important to have a space where you feel like you can just let loose and all of your nerves just run off of you. I think it's really important to where you can feel comfortable and feels like a warm hug. That's how I know, like, that's just an amazing home.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content, shopping guides, and so much more.